Yes, young lady, the servant answered respectfully. Nan Luo pursed her lips and lowered her eyes, which were filled with coldness. These people had made her suffer a lot. They could not blame her for her choice to take revenge on people who had hurt her. However, when Nan Luo raised her eyes, all the hatred had disappeared and was replaced by a gentle smile. Thank you, Maiden Feng. Sui looked at Feng Ruqing, wanted to say something but stopped herself. Since Qing'er had her reasons for doing so, all she had to do was to trust her. Nan Luo. Sui paused for a moment, turned to Nan Luo, and said coldly, "This is general manner, not your Nan manner. If you want to stay here, you must learn to treat Qing'er with respect. If you say anything else that offends her, even if Qing'er intends to keep you, I will kick you out immediately." Hatred filled Nan Luo's heart, and she could not help but clench her hands. I understand, Aunt Sui. Seeing Sui's cold face, Nan Luo quickly changed her words. Lady Sui. Sui continued, my father still needs to rest. You need not bother him during this period. I don't want him to recall any bad memories he had. All right, Nan Luo smiled bitterly. She tried to put on a sweet face, but Sui was still looking at her coldly. Sui sighed and said indifferently, you can follow the servant. Nan Luo nodded and turned to Feng Ruqing, looking grateful. She then followed the servant and went inside general manner. Me for extra chapters. Watching Nan Luo's figure disappearing into the distance, Sui frowned and asked, Qing'er, Nan Luo is Nan Fang's daughter. She even tried to drug me. She does not seem as simple as her appearance. Why are you allowing her to stay in general manner? Feng Ruqing laughed. Since we all know she is not simple, it is better if I keep her by my side. You mean? Feng Ruqing did not answer Sui. She turned to look at Sui and asked, Sui, what do you think of Nan Fang? Sui pondered for a moment. He is a ruthless man and does not leave any room for mistakes. Well, if he is a person who leaves no room for mistake, why did he release Nan Luo? Feng Ruqing asked with a faint smile. What Nan Luo betrayed him, and with Nan Fang's character, he would not have only beat her up and kicked her out. Nan Fang was domineering, and he hated being betrayed. Therefore, Feng Ruqing did not believe that Nan Luo could run away from Nan Fang. Sui finally understood. So, it's Nan Fang who asked her to come here? Sui was a bit shocked. Nan Luo had suffered so much in the Nan family. Why would she still help Nan Fang? She would not be surprised if Nan Luo did this because of her ulterior motive. However, she could not believe that Nan Luo was still willing to help Nan Fang. Sui, Nan Fang will not easily leave Nan City. He must still have some scruples about coming to Wushang City. I'm not afraid if he sends his men here, but if we drive Nan Luo away, we don't know who Nan Fang will send next, so, Feng Ruqing sneered. Let's keep Nan Luo and see what Nan Fang is planning. Sui was stunned. Why would she help Nan Fang after what he had done to her? I don't understand. She would never understand. She wants power and status in the Nan family unless she can find it somewhere else. Only then, she might willingly abandon the Nan family. For now, she will not completely turn her back on the Nan family. Hearing these words, Sui fell silent. She had this discussion with the White Phoenix in the Nan family back then. Nan Luo refused to leave the Nan family because she loved her status as the Nan family's only young lady. Except for her parents and her brother, other people still respected and admired her. She was nothing if she left the Nan family. Qing'er, then why did she help me before? She even betrayed Nan Fang for me. Sui hesitantly wondered out loud, can it be that she wants to get close to me because of Nan Fang? Impossible. If it wasn't for your huge pot and the sword soul, we couldn't even escape from Nan Fang. He is such a confident man. Why does he want to use Nan Luo when he still has another choice? At that time, Nan Fang never thought I could escape, so he would not have sent Nan Luo to help me. Why did Nan Luo want to help me find my father? Maybe she wants something from you? Feng Ruqing shrugged. No need to think about this. The most important thing now is to watch her at all times. That's all we can do. Sui sighed and said guiltily, Qing'er, I've made you worry. It's all right. You're my favorite Sui after all. Feng Ruqing smiled. Since she first met Sui back then, even after she knew Sui's background, she had decided to protect her for the rest of her life. Sui's heart warmed. She held Feng Ruking's hand and said, "Qing'e, I actually regretted marrying Mu Ling at first. Then I realized that everything was destined. Because of Mu Ling, I gave birth to Nan Xian, and because of Nan Xian, there is you. So I no longer hate him." Mu Ling. An old voice came from the back. Me for extra chapters. As Sui turned her around, she saw the old master stepping out of the door and walking toward her. He was still a little thin, but much better than before. Even his voice was no longer weak. "Father, why are you out?" Sui rushed to him. "You have not yet recovered. It is better to rest more." Old Master Nan's face sank. "Who is this Mu Ling you were talking about? How come I haven't seen my grandson's father? Where is his father? Don't tell me he's dead." Sui was put in a difficult position, so she looked to Feng Ruqing for help. The old master had not yet fully recovered. If he knew what she had been through all these years, he would be angry again. Feng Ruqing looked at Sui, took out a bottle of spirit water from the medium, and let the old master smell it. The aroma entered his nose, making the old master calm and refreshed. Feng Ruqing turned to Sui. "You can tell him now." Sui sighed and said, "Father, we've split up." "Split up?" The old master was so angry that his eyes rolled up, and he almost fainted. If it were not for that refreshing aroma, he would have collapsed. He knew his own daughter best. If she was not suffering, why would she split up with her husband? "Why did you leave him? What did that brute do?" the old master asked angrily. Sui smiled bitterly and said, "I married him because he treated me nicely, accompanied me during my darkest time, and was the only warmth I had during that time." During that time, she was forced to leave the mainland. She was injured and she missed her father. She felt depressed the whole day. Upon meeting Mu Ling, he was like sunshine, warming her entire life. She was touched by his kindness and had agreed to marry him. Except for old Master Mu and Xiao Qingyin, the people of the Mu family disliked her because she was an orphan, and Mu Ling was out of her league. However, no one knew that she had lost her power to save Mu Ling. She had endured so much pain for Mu Ling, until he no longer loved her. "Father, it's all in the past. I no longer need him and no longer hate him. I feel better now." Sui smiled gently. She was grateful for the life she had now. Of course, this was Sui's opinion. However, the old master had just met Sui. He did not want to see her suffer, so he continued to ask, "What did that bastard do to you? Tell me." Sui was stunned and laughed helplessly. "He just couldn't give me what I wanted. He doesn't love me anymore, and he has someone else now. So I left him." The old master's face darkened with anger, and he almost fainted again. Feng Ruking's quickly brought the spirit water closer to his nose, and a few seconds later, his mind gradually cleared up. "Me for extra chapters." He sneered. "That's his loss. Sui, where is that bastard? When the time comes, I'll go and kill him. How dare that scum bullied my daughter?" Sui paused and shook her head. "Father, he has already been punished. Old Master Mu has kicked him out. His concubine and other sons and daughters are dead. He has nothing now. I spared his life because I respect old Master Mu." "Grandfather." Feng Ruking's eyes flashed a light, smiling. "Sui was just bullied by a mad dog. We need not bother too much with him." The old master was silent for a few moments. "That's right, I won't find that bastard, but if he dares to appear in front of me, I will definitely make him kneel and beg for mercy. Sui, since you have already made peace with him, I will introduce you to some other excellent men then." "Grandfather." Feng Ruqing smiled and turned to look at the old master. "What do you think of the White Phoenix?" "The White Phoenix?" The old master looked lost. Even Sui turned to Feng Ruqing, confused. "The White Phoenix." Before Feng Ruqing could continue, a fierce wind flashed, and the White Phoenix suddenly appeared above her, swiftly grabbing Feng Ruqing into the sky with its claws. Drops of cold sweat emerged on the White Phoenix's forehead. So close, she has almost let Sui know my feelings. It had not yet turned into a human. The white phoenix was afraid that Sui would reject it because of its phoenix figure. Foam Rooking's face darkened, and her punch landed squarely on its chest. The white phoenix flew out, and it could not help but loosen its claws, disappearing without a trace. Foam Roaching landed steadily on the ground and looked at Sui smilingly. Sui, it's getting late. Go back and rest. I'll handle Nanluo. Sui was stunned. Chinger, what did you just say about the white phoenix? Oh, nothing. It deserved a punch. Sui was speechless. Inexplicably, she felt that Chinger and the white phoenix was hiding something from her. Tang Yin had just stepped into the room when she suddenly saw a handsome man standing next to the headboard, gazing at the silver snake on the bed. She was stunned and asked in confusion, "What do you want to do to my mother?" Qing Han had said that this man wanted to possess Xiao Qing and was eventually taken in as a sword soul by Xiao Qing. Therefore, she looked at the man standing next to the bed suspiciously. The man then realized that someone had walked in. He turned away and walked out of the room without looking at Tang Yin. Tang Yin was even more confused, not understanding what this guy was doing here. The afternoon sun was at its brightest. Nanluo walked out of the courtyard and saw a handsome figure. The man was dressed in white, as handsome as a mortal, holding a jade flute. The pleasant sound of the flute made Nanluo stop in her tracks, staring at the man unblinkingly. The man stood on the peach blossom tree, with a lovely little girl sitting next to him. She put her legs into the lake, quietly listening to the pleasant sound. Nanluo could not control her feet, and involuntarily walked toward the man. She was slow, and she stopped behind Nan Xian. The two people in front might not have noticed her, or perhaps they were ignoring her, so they did not turn back. Me for extra chapters. Xia put her hands on her cheeks, smiling brightly. Father, can you teach me how to play the flute? The man looked down at the little girl sitting next to him. Xia's clear eyes carried determination. I want to play the flute to Big Doggy when I meet it later. Go and cultivate first. I'll teach you after you make a breakthrough. The man's face was expressionless. Xia pouted, looking at the man pitifully. Father, Nan Xian put the flute to his lips. However, he suddenly paused as he heard an unpleasant sound from behind him. Your jade flute makes the most beautiful music I've ever heard. The young girl chuckled. Xia glanced sideways at the young girl. Aren't you the bad woman? What do you want again? Xia was a bit exasperated, glaring at Nanluo fiercely. Nanluo smiled faintly. She raised her hand to try to pet Xia's head. However, Xia suddenly revealed her sharp teeth and bit Nanluo's hand. Ah! Nanluo shouted painfully. Her face turned pale as she looked at her hand that was bitten and bleeding. Xia grunted and loosened her jaw. She licked the blood from her teeth and spat it out. Yuck! It's bitter. Nanluo was stunned. Little girl, are you a dog? Nanluo quickly put her hands behind her back. She bit her lip and said, I didn't mean to take you away back then. It was my brother who forced me to do so. He will tell my mother if I don't listen to him. I have no choice. I will do anything for you as long as you can forgive me. Xia looked at Nanluo, seemingly thinking about her words. Nanluo saw Xia's expression and knew that the little girl would forgive her. She was happy and smiled brightly. Well then, Xia sighed. I'll forgive you if you leave this place. Nanluo was stunned and looked at Xia in disbelief. She could not believe that a child would say those words. Father, Xia turned to look at Nan Xian and pouted. I'm hungry. I want to eat meat. Nan Xian frowned. You're too fat. You can't eat anymore. Xia was stunned. Her heart was filled with despair as if she had fallen into darkness. Fat? Father said. I'm fat. Xia lifted her dress, pinched the flesh on her stomach, and cried painfully. I don't want to eat meat anymore. From now on, I'll only eat herbal dishes. I'm fat, Big Doggy can't carry me anymore when I meet it in the future. No. I must lose weight. Me for extra chapters. Tears poured from Xia's eyes. She then jumped off the rock and ran to the backyard. Mother, I'm fat.
No.
I want a herbal dish to reduce weight. Nan Luo sighed in relief as she looked at Xia Xia's figure like a small butterfly disappearing. She did not understand why she would panic every time she faced this 2-year-old girl. It seemed that as long as Xia Xia was there, she would never get the chance to get close to Nan Xian. Master, Nan Luo lowered her head. She was a little nervous, twisting and pinching her sleeves. Her heart beat faster. I'm sorry. My father has done too many bad things to Aunt Sui. As his daughter, I deserve to be punished on his behalf. I will stay here forever and take care of Aunt Sui and Xia Xia. Nan Xian's cold gaze finally landed upon Nan Luo, frowning. You want to stay here forever? Yes, Nan Luo bit her lip. Only then can I make up for my father's mistakes. Nan Xian's face instantly darkened as he raised his hand, and a gust of strong wind surged out. Nan Luo was caught off guard. She was lifted away before falling somewhere beyond the fence. The man's handsome face was cold and expressionless. If it weren't because Qing'er allows you to stay here, you wouldn't be able to step into General Manor. And now you want to stay here forever? The man had one hand behind his back, and his voice was cold. We don't need you to take responsibility for your father, because Nan Fong will die sooner or later. Qing Zhu was lying in the lake, taking a nap. It yawned lazily and opened its eyes slowly as it heard Nan Xian's words. Nan Luo must have pissed Master off. Look, Master is mad now. Master loves peace, but Nan Luo keeps bothering him. If she stays here forever, won't that make Master have no peace in the future? Master, I think we can kill this woman secretly. Then no one will bother you again. Qing Zhu chuckled. A cold light flashed in Nan Xian's eyes. He pondered for a moment. No, Qing'e wants to keep her. Just kill her when the princess is not aware. Qing Zhu smiled proudly as if it was still gloating over the fact that he had solved a big problem for its master. However, Nan Xian suddenly walked up to it with a gloomy face and dragged it up from the ground expressionlessly. Master, where are you taking me? Qing Zhu was almost crying with fear and asked pitifully. I'll bring you to Qing'er. Qing Zhu looked confused. Why are you suddenly going to find Princess? You encouraged me to disobey her. Qing Zhu was speechless. It suddenly felt like it wanted to run away from here and never come back again. Qing Zhu cried out loud. No matter how it struggled, Nan Xian refused to let go of it. It could only allow him to drag it to the backyard helplessly. Tang Yin held a plate of fruit when someone suddenly was thrown down from the next wall and fell in front of her. She was so shocked that the plate flew out of her hand, and the plate coincidentally fell upon Nan Luo, smashing her head hard. You, Tang Yin froze for a few seconds. You are the daughter of the bastard who bullied Aunt Sui? Oh, how dare you come to General Manor? Just now was that vixen. Tang Yin paused and changed her tone. Did Nan Xian throw you here? Me for extra chapters. Nan Luo got up from the ground with a livid face. She pursed her lips and snapped. Who are you? And what does it matter to you? Tang Yin raised her eyebrows and smirked. Do you like Nan Xian?
What?
Nan Luo panicked, and she hurriedly took 2 steps back. Is it so obvious? How I'm going to face Feng Ruqing if she knows about it. Nan Xian comes to this courtyard and plays his flute for Xiao Qing and Xia Xia when he has nothing to do. All people in General Manor know about this, and they will not bother them. Except for me. Tang Yin pointed to her own face proudly. Only I, Tang Yin, can disturb him at this time. Nan Luo's face was slightly pale. She had indeed inquired about this matter and knew that Feng Ruqing had gone out today, so she deliberately used this time to meet him. However, what she did not expect was that Nan Xian would be so cold. It seemed like he would never allow anyone to come close to him. Nan Luo's eyes fell upon Tang Yin's proud face. A cold light flashed in her eyes after she thought about what Tang Yin just said. You unintentionally disturbed them. Tang Yin patted Nan Luo's shoulder hard, causing her to almost fall to the ground. This girl is quite strong. She lowered her eyes, looked at the cracked ground, and then looked up at Tang Yin, her gaze flooded with panic. What do you mean by unintentionally disturbing them?
You can shut up if you don't know what to say.
I did it on purpose. Although every time Nan Xian would throw her out, she had Xiaoqing backing her up, so he did not dare to beat her. She was the only one who had this kind of treatment in general manner. Tang Yin was happy, but her smile suddenly disappeared when she looked at Nan Luo's face. And Feng Ruqing did not scold you when you did this. Nan Luo was a little curious. It was rumored that Feng Ruqing from Feng Manor was quite possessive, and she did not allow her husband to have any concubines. Of course, she was Tian Ya's granddaughter, so no one dared to go against her. However, she was such a possessive woman, and she actually allowed another woman to stay close to Nan Xian, and gave her permission to disturb him?
What do you mean by that?
Tang Yin's face was cold. Are you cursing me? This bitch. How dare she curses me? If Xiaoqing allows Nan Xian to beat me, it means that Xiaoqing no longer likes me. That's not what I meant. A cold light flashed in Nan Luo's eyes as she walked toward Tang Yin. I just think that you deserve to be with your lover. Nan Luo did not trust Tang Yin even though this girl also showed her hostility toward Feng Ruqing. She would never let anyone know about her plan. Tang Yin raised her head proudly. You think so? Perhaps it was Nan Luo's words that made Tang Yin no longer cold to her. She even looked at Nan Luo smilingly. However, she would never betray Xiaoqing just because of Nan Luo's words. Even if what Nan Fang had done had nothing to do with Nan Luo, she, as Nan Fang's daughter, let Sui suffer so much and almost harmed Xiaoqing, it was impossible to forgive. Unless Nan Luo was willing to be the same as Tang Yin was back then, completely abandoning her family for Feng Ruqing, but if Xiaoqing had not been wary of Nan Luo, she would not have sent someone to secretly watch her, let alone let her go live in such a remote room. These treatments were not the same as the ones she had back then me for extra chapters. Nan Luo smiled faintly. But there is something I have to ask. Does Feng Ruqing know that you love Nan Xian? Love Nan Xian? Who?
Me?
Tang Yin's smile froze as she looked at Nan Luo blankly. Did you just say, I love Nan Xian? Nan Luo lowered her eyes and smiled faintly. Don't worry. I will not tell her. So, Tang Yin raised her hand and slapped Nan Luo's face. Nan Luo's face turned red and swollen. Tears appeared in the corner of her eyes. She covered her face with her hand and looked at Tang Yin, shocked. You, who told you I like that bastard, Nan Xian? He is a vixen who seduced my Xiaoqing. I hate him. Tang Yin clenched her fists tightly and gritted her teeth. Nan Luo froze. She was embarrassed and could not wait to hide in a hole. She tried to force a smile, but failed. No, I was just joking with you. Tang Yin sneered. Do you think I'm stupid? I know. You have a crush on Xiaoqing, and you want to set me up with Nan Xian so that Xiaoqing will misunderstand us, and you can have her for yourself. Nan Luo was speechless. A crush on Feng Ruqing? What a joke. Nonsense. I'm not a pervert. Why would I have a crush on her? Tang Yin's face changed dramatically. This bitch dares to call me a pervert. She raised her hand and slapped Nan Luo's head, pressing her entire body into the ground, leaving only half of her body outside. Tang Yin smiled proudly. She raised her eyes and saw a man in white robes stepping out from the courtyard. Her face stiffened, and after a moment's hesitation, she pointed to Nan Luo, who was pressed into the ground by her. Just now, she said that all those who like Xiaoqing are perverts. Nan Luo was stunned. Without giving her a chance to explain, the man was already glaring at her coldly, causing her to shiver coldly. Perverts? Nan Xian asked calmly. Nan Luo's face turned pale, and she looked at the man who had stopped in front of her in panic. Nan Xian glanced at Nan Luo coldly and turned to Tang Yin, frowning. Tang. My name is Tang Yin. Tang Yin's face darkened. Nan Xian did not respect her at all and could not even remember her name. Well, let her stay inside for a few weeks. Don't give her any food. Just fed her with spirit herbs to let her stay alive. Then, ask Xia to eat near her. Tang Yin was speechless. Looking at Nan Xian's serious face, she subconsciously took a few steps back. This was the first time she had met such a terrible person. Nan Xian was only gentle to Xiaoqing, but not to others. Me for extra chapters. One more thing. Nan Xian was expressionless. There is a foul ditch outside Wushang City. If she's thirsty, let her drink that water. Tang Yin suddenly felt that the slaps she gave Nan Luo were nothing compared to Nan Xian's torture. Nan Luo's face was pale. She looked at Nan Xian in horror, and her gaze was filled with deep despair. How could a man be so cruel to such an extent? He is not a human at all. However, he was still her first love. Nan Xian did not look at Nan Luo again, passed by her side, and left the courtyard. This half-month time, Nan Luo could no longer approach Nan Xian. She was so hungry and got really thin. Xia Xia would appear every day during mealtime, sat in front of her, and ate with great pleasure. If it was in the past, it was a pleasure to look at this little girl eating delicious food, and it would make people could not help but feel hungry. However, now, the person who was facing Xia Xia was Nan Luo. To her, it was torture and disaster. Xia Xia gnawed on a chicken leg in her hand, looking at Nan Luo, who was half buried in the ground smilingly. Radish, do you want to eat together?
Ari?
Radish? Nan Luo's face darkened. She bit her lip and said in a dry and hoarse voice, Xia Xia, if you eat like this, aren't you afraid of gaining weight? The little girl held the chicken leg and stopped chewing. She did not know whether she should swallow the food in her mouth or not. Nan Luo smirked. Xia Xia, I see that you have recently gained a lot of weight. You better stop eating. Xia Xia did not want to spit out the food in her mouth, so she finally swallowed it down ruthlessly. She stood up from the ground and pointed at Nan Luo buried in the ground, angrily. Ah hua, she insulted me. Nan Luo thought she was smart enough to provoke Xia Xia, but suddenly a huge leopard fell from the sky and landed on her hard, almost spitting out a mouthful of blood. Xia Xia walked toward Nan Luo. She raised her little chin arrogantly. That's what you get when you call me fat. Even if I'm fat, I'm not as fat as Ahua. Mother has a lot of spirit herbs, so I won't get fat even if I eat a lot now. No girl could be tolerant if someone called her fat. Nan Luo's words angered her. Ahua, call the others over, and we'll eat together in front of her. Xia Xia smiled. Let's see if you still dare to call me fat. Under Ahua's butt, Nan Luo had been pressed so hard that she could not even utter a word. Her face darkened, and her eyes were filled with hatred. Me for extra chapters. The good thing was that half a month passed quickly. Tang Yin ordered a group of people to pull Nan Luo out of the ground. The moment she was pulled out, everyone subconsciously took a few steps back. The foul smell coming from Nan Luo was unbearable. Tang Yin quickly covered Xia Xia's nose. She raised her head and looked at Nan Luo coldly. This half-month is considered to be your punishment. Next time, if you don't watch your mouth again, the punishment will be worse than this. That being said, everyone turned to Nan Luo with eyes filled with murderous intent. Nan Luo was scared and took a few steps back. She bit her lip tightly. Her body trembled. I don't dare. Better so. Tang Yin harumphed, held Xia Xia's hand, and left without looking back. The others could not stand the stench, and also turned around and left. No one noticed the young girl's eyes were no longer as pitiful as before, but only filled with hatred and resentment. Aunt Tang. Xia Xia held Tang Yin's hand and turned to look at the young girl next to her. I don't like that bad woman and don't want her in my house. Tang Yin raised her hand and pinched Xia Xia's little nose and sighed. Xiaoqing must have her reasons for doing so. We will listen to her. If you don't listen, Xiaoqing will run away with your father and leave us here. Xia Xia's face changed dramatically. Should we find a way to make father leave mother? If father is not here, mother won't abandon or leave us alone. Tang Yin's eyes lit up as she smiled. That's a good idea. But your father and your mother are now inseparable. I'm afraid it's not as easy as we thought, Xia Xia pouted, looking somewhat disappointed. If mother really follows father and runs away, then it'll be left behind alone. Tang Yin raised his hand and touched Xia Xia's small head. It's all right. We can think again and make a better plan. Xia Xia's eyes suddenly lit up. She smiled as bright as sunshine and her black eyes shone like stars. Great. Aunt Tang, when will Xiaoya wake up? Xia Xia bit her finger and continued. She's been sleeping for a long time. Mother said we shouldn't oversleep. That's why Mother will make me wake up early every day. But why can Xiaoya stay asleep? Tang Yin's eyes dimmed for a moment at the mention of Xiaoya. Her smile faded. I don't know. Xiao Qing said she would wake up, so she will wake up. I'll need to wait. She would always wait for her to wake up. She believed that since her mother was still alive, then one day, she would wake up. Oh, Xia Xia looked lost, perhaps still not quite understanding. Tang Yin came back to her senses and took Xia Xia's hand. She smiled and said softly, Xia Xia, let's go find your mother. The warm sunlight fell upon Tang Yin's body. This warmth somehow made her think of Nailin Jing. She pursed her lips and sighed lightly. Where is brother Nailin? Is he still alive? In Tianfeng City. This city was one of the main cities of Tianling Kingdom and ruled by a local tyrant, Zhang Tianlei. At this moment, in the chief manor's dungeon, a little girl sat in the corner, curled up into a ball. She wrapped her arms tightly around herself, perhaps feeling a little cold. Dust and dirt covered her face, but one could still see her stunning features. Me for extra chapters. She was young, just about 10 years old, but already had a long and slender body, bright eyes, and white teeth.
Bang!
A sword cut the lock outside the cell, and the moment the young girl looked up, she saw the man had already entered and pulled her into his arms immediately. Dyer, I'm sorry. I'll take you away. Brother, the young girl murmured, tears streaming from her eyes. She used her dirty hand to wipe the tears at the corner of her eyes and smiled brightly. Brother, with you around, I'm not afraid of anything. Let's go. The man took the young girl's hand and just wanted to walk out when countless guards suddenly appeared and surrounded them. Then, a fierce, well-dressed middle-aged man appeared from behind the guards. Nailin Jing, your sister stole from my chief manor. If you don't return all the things you've stolen, both of you can't leave my dungeon today. The middle-aged man smirked. Nailin Jing held the long sword. His hand trembled slightly, but his face remained expressionless. Dare did not steal your things. Ha ha ha. The middle-aged man laughed wildly. Nailin Jing, I've let both of you stay in my manor for 2 years. But you are so ungrateful for stealing my spirit herbs. Nailin Jing was probably worried about Dyer, shielding her firmly in his arms. You locked us up for 2 years. You never allow us to leave your manor for 2 years. You're lucky because my son is in love with your sister. If not because of your sister's age, she would have been my son's wife by now. We don't allow her to go out freely because we don't want her to do something that will embarrass my son. I have to ask you to stay with me. Nailin Jing sneered. Dyer has no marriage contract with your silly son. What right do you have to treat her like this? Zhang Tianlei frowned. A cold light flashed in his eyes as he looked at the little girl standing next to Nailin Jing. This little girl has this sort of charm at such a young age. Once she grows up, she will be a great seducer of men. But my son has fallen for her, and I can do nothing about it. Otherwise, with people like you who have no status and no background, how can you enter my Zhang family's gate? The only thing that you can rely on is my son's favor. The little girl's face darkened as she stared at Zhang Tianlei indignantly. I won't marry him. Zhang Tianlei sneered. Little girl, I've seen many good-looking girls like you. All of them are like you when they are young, but they will all commit themselves to a strong man once they grow up. I know, my son is quite incapable, but he is my son. In the most powerful man in Tianfeng City. No one dares to mess with you when you marry into my Zhang family. All women in this city want to be my son's wife. But since Nailin Jing and Dyer passed by here 2 years ago, his silly son had become obsessed with this little girl and wanted to marry her.
Bang!
A fierce wind suddenly surged out of Nailin Jing's long sword. He raised his sword and rushed toward Zhang Tianlei. His pale face was full of anger, and there was a sharp murderous intent in his eyes. Zhang Tianlei sneered and punched Nalanjing's chest. The powerful force from the fist spread into his body. He spurted out a mouthful of blood and took a few steps back. "Brother, me for extra chapters." Dyer's tears gushed out like spring water. "I'm sorry, brother. If I hadn't followed you here, everything wouldn't have happened, and you wouldn't have been injured and trapped with me for 2 years." However, she had wanted to see Feng Ruching, so she followed him here. But now they were stuck in the city, unable to find Feng Ruching and Tang Yin. Nalanjing's heart ached as he looked at the tears on Dyer's face. In the Nalan family, Dyer had always been pampered, and no one dared to bully her. But now, their most beloved Dyer was so humiliated, he raised his hand and touched Nalan Dyer's head gently. "Dyer, I will take you away. Even if I have to face a bloody battle, I will not let you stay in this place anymore." As the words fell, he turned to Zhang Tianli's men once again. His eyes were cold, filled with murderous intent. "Leave." Zhang Tianlei sneered. "I would like to see today how you are going to leave my city." Nalanjing ignored Zhang Tianlei, his hand holding Nalan Dyer tightly as he slowly walked toward the crowd. The Zhang family guards all drew their swords and pointed them at Nalanjing, surrounding them. Nalan Dyer held Nalanjing's hand nervously. She was from the Nalan family, and she would never bow down to the enemy. She would rather die than disgrace herself. Zhang Tianlei frowned. "This little girl is now 10 years old. Initially, I thought she was young and wanted to raise her for a few more years. Since you are so disobedient now and have even stolen my spirit herbs, then I can only make her give her body in exchange for the spirit herbs." He looked at Nalan Dyer's stubborn little face. "I'll give you a chance. If you listen to me, I can let your brother live here for the rest of his life without worries. But if you disagree, I will force you to marry my son today, and I will kill your brother." Nalan Dyer stopped in her tracks. Her eyes were cold and fierce. "Then, just kill me now." Even though no one in Land of No Return knew the Nalan family, she would never ruin the Nalan family's reputation just to save her life. She was proud of her family and her parents. She could not ruin her family name and lose all her dignity. "Then, there is no need to be polite with you." Zhang Tianlei sneered. "Guards, arrest Nalan Dyer and kill Nalanjing. I've treated them well for Nalan Dyer's sake, but I have never thought that you would steal from my Zhang family and disobey me. So don't blame me for not being polite." His voice was cold as his face. Nalanjing pulled Dyer into his arms and drew his sword to resist the man's attack. Zhang Tianlei did not strike again. Perhaps he thought that his men's power was enough to kill Nalanjing. Me for extra chapters. Nalanjing protected Dyer with one hand, while the other hand gripped the long sword to fight the enemy in front of him. His sweat flowed down his face. However, even if he faced more dangerous enemies, he would never let go of the little girl in his arms. He had promised her to bring her to Feng Ruching safely. The people in Land of No Return were different from those in Songyu mainland. Even a guard was extremely powerful. Nalanjing's shoulder was severely wounded, blood stained his robe, but he did not even stop. The dark dungeon was still a little damp. The scent of congealed blood in the dungeon made people nauseous. Nalan Dyer saw that Nalanjing was already covered in blood. She gritted her teeth and said, "Brother, leave me alone for now. They won't hurt me. You need to find our cousin, so I can get out of here." Nalanjing was silent for a moment. "These people will not kill Dyer, but they will torture her and abuse her. Dyer is such a gentle little girl. How can she bear to be treated like this? She won't be able to bear that."
No.
"I will send my precious sister to someone who can protect her for the rest of her life, not this foolish son of the Zhang family." Nalanjing spat a mouthful of blood again. He wiped the blood at the corner of his mouth with his hand and said, "Dyer, believe in me. No matter what, I will take you out today." Nalan Dyer grasped Nalanjing's hand tightly as she stared into his determined eyes. She believed that her brother would do what he had promised her. "You can't leave this place." Zhang Tianlei sneered, his eyes carrying a look of disdain. Nalan Jing did not say another word as he rushed violently into the crowd. Powerful forces emerged from his sword, but he did not attack those guards. Instead, he fiercely smashed the dungeon's gate. Nalan Jing pulled Dyer into his arms and swiftly rushed toward the broken gate. The guards were stunned, but because Nalan Dyer was in Nalan Jing's arms, they did not dare to attack them too harshly. They were afraid that the young master would cry again if they accidentally hurt the little girl. Seeing Nalan Jing rushing toward the gate, Zhang Tianli's eyes turned cold, and he finally made a move. A powerful force blasted at Nalan Jing's back, making him spurt a mouthful of blood again. He turned to look at the group of people chasing behind him and turned to the beautiful little girl in his arms. Dyer, I can't accompany you to find Ruqing. Go to her, and she will protect you. Brother. Nalan Dyer heart tightened, her face pale like snow. She held Nalan Jing's sleeve tightly. You want to leave me alone? Dyer, I'm sorry. Nalan Jing's voice was tinged with regret. Dyer and I, only one can leave. Brothers. Nalan Dyer's tears flowed down her delicate face as she shook her head.
No.
I want to go with you. Me for extra chapters. Nalan Jing smiled bitterly. Unfortunately, there was no more chance. The guards had already caught up to him, so he no longer had a chance to leave. Nalan Jing whistled into the sky, and steeply, an eagle came flying from not far away. It was only an eagle with ordinary strength. Half a month ago, Dyer happened to see this wounded eagle in the chief manor's backyard. From that time on, she went there every day and fed it with the spirit herbs given by Ruqing. The people in the chief manor said she stole the spirit herbs and locked her up because she saved this eagle. Nalan Jing used all his strength to throw Dyer up into the sky. The eagle quickly grabbed Dyer with its claws and flew away without looking back. Brothers! A heart-rending shout echoed through the sky. Nalan Dyer stretched out her hand, trying to grab Nalan Jing, but no matter how hard she tried, she could no longer grab him. Despair, pain, and sorrow filled her heart. With endless grief, Zhang Tianli's face changed dramatically. I will bring that girl back. Guard, beat this kid up for me first. Nalan Jing gazed at the disappearing Nalan Dyer in the sky. He turned sideways and blocked the guards. He was tall and huge like a mountain, blocking all the storm for the people he cared the most. Zhang Tianli looked at Nalan Jing with eyes filled with murderous intent. He clenched his fists tightly and punched Nalan Jing's chest hard. Nalan Jing could not withstand such a powerful force. He spurted out a mouthful of blood, flew backward, and fell in the middle of the crowd. His vision gradually blurred. Only the little girl's sweet face appeared in his mind. So bright and lovely. I'm sorry, Xiaoyin. He gradually started to close his eyes. I can no longer protect you. An unbearable pain suddenly struck his heart, making it somewhat hard to breathe. With Nalan Dyer's last glance at her brother, she saw him flying out like a stray arrow before falling to the ground, unable to get up again. Tears streamed down her face. Brother! Her wailing voice was filled with hoarseness and endless grief. However, no matter how hard she yelled, the person on the ground never looked up at her again. Zhang Tianli sneered and walked toward Nalan Jing. He looked at the man lying on the ground coldly. He then smirked as he raised his hand again, holding his long sword. You think she can just escape like this? No one can escape from Zhang Tianli. He laughed wildly and crossed over Nalan Jing's body. However, just as he was about to chase after Nalan Dyer, a hand tightly tugged at his leg. Zhang Tianli turned around, and his gaze fell on the young man's pale face. He sneered. You're still alive, me for extra chapters. I want, allow you, to go to her. The man's voice was weak, as if he had no more strength, but even so, he still grabbed Zhang Tianli's leg firmly and would not let him go.
Boom.
Zhang Tianli once again hit him with his strong fists. You want to die? Then I will send you to hell.
Poof.
The blood in Nalan Jing's mouth kept pouring. He felt a burning pain in his chest, and his hand almost lost its strength. However, once he thought of Nalan Dyer's bright smile, His heart became more and more determined, and he used his remaining strength to stop Zhang Tianlei. Zhang Tianlei looked down at the man lying on the ground and commanded expressionlessly, "You guys go after Nayland Dyer. I'll settle this man." "Yes, master," the guards answered respectfully, and left at once. Nayland Jing coughed out a mouthful of blood again. At this moment, Nayland Dyer had already lost the trail in the sky, and these people might not be able to catch her up. As long as he could stall Zhang Tianlei, it would be enough. Thud. Zhang Tianlei kicked him violently, knocking Nayland Jing to the ground. His gaze was livid and ruthless as he stepped forward and lifted Nayland Jing's lapel. "Do you know that you are asking for a death wish?" Nayland Jing closed his eyes, blood dripping from the corner of his mouth. "I only know that I'll have no regret if Dyer is safe." Zhang Tianlei raised his hand and threw Nayland Jing to the ground. This time, Nayland Jing finally lost all his strength. He looked down and coughed lightly, coughing out the blood inside his throat. The sword in Zhang Tianlei's hand was pointed at Nayland Jing, his face expressionless. "Since you are begging for death, I shall fulfill your wish." His long sword permitted a cold aura, and it pierced through Nayland Jing's chest fiercely. Blood seeped out and stained his robe red. His breathing gradually weakened, and his vision became more and more blurry. He felt so exhausted. He wanted to close his eyes and rest for a while. "Master." Just at the moment when Zhang Tianlei was about to make another move, a hurried voice suddenly came. He turned and saw an old housekeeper from the chief manor approaching him anxiously. "Master, I found this wanted notice in the city." "A wanted notice?" Zhang Tianlei stretched out his hand doubtfully and took the scroll handed over by the old housekeeper. The picture painted on the scroll was a young man with starry eyes and looked so familiar. He paused for a moment, subconsciously turned his head, and looked at the man in the pool of blood, shocked. This man. Who is this guy, and why is someone wanted? Subsequently, Zhang Tianlei once again looked at the notice. Besides a portrait, there was no more description, only a short message. "If you find the whereabouts of this person, immediately notify General Tianya Manor. There will be a big reward." "General Tianya Manor?" A cold light flashed in Zhang Tianlei's eyes. "Nayland Dyer has so many spirit herbs. Could it be that they stole these spirit herbs from Tianya? That's why they are wanted?" "Me for extra chapters." "Master, I guess so. It looks like this person is General Tianya's enemy. If we bring him to General Manor, General Tianya will definitely reward us." "Housekeeper," Zhang Tianlei smirked. "Use the spirit herb to wake him up.
Don't let him die for the time being."
After all, if he really stole something from General Manor, Tianya must want to deal with him personally. But don't let him recover either. We must show our sincerity." "Yes, master." Zhang Tianlei glanced at Nayland Jing on the ground and sneered. "Nayland Jing, you might have been safe if your sister had married my son earlier. Since you are so against me, then I can only send both of you to Tianya. You and your sister's life is none of my business now." General Manor. Tang Yin bit the brush in her hand and looked at the portrait spread out in front of her. "Xiao Yin, have you drawn my cousin in the missing poster?" Foam Ruching smiled as she walked forward and took the paper from Tang Yin. She stiffened for a moment. "You drew this?" "Yes." Tang Yin nodded. "Xiao Qing, did I draw Brother Nayland too handsomely? Do you want me to draw something ugly?" Foam Ruching stiffened. "Why did you draw him like this?" She should not have trusted this girl to give her such an important task. "Is there something wrong?" Tang Yin seemed lost. She took out the other portrait in her hand and said confusedly, "This is the sample I found in the city gate before. I drew it according to this painting, and I wrote wanted on it. Is it wrong?" Foam Ruching was speechless. She lowered her eyes and looked at the drawing in Tang Yin's hand. "Xiao Qing." Tang Yin did not notice Foam Ruching's expression and asked smilingly, "What do you think of the painting I did? Is it very similar to Brother Nayland?" "Yes, it is similar, but it looks more like a wanted poster." "I don't care. People can still recognize Brother Nayland with my drawing." Tang Yin smiled brightly and put away the portrait in her hand. Someone will send the news to us sooner or later, and we will meet him again. The smile on Tang Yin's face gradually disappeared, and she sighed lightly, his gaze somewhat sorrowful. But we don't know when that is. In the past, she felt nothing when she had Nalan Jing by her side, but now, she suddenly missed him after not seeing him for a long time. Oh, and she missed Gui too. Tang Yin's face reddened as she thought about this. Xiao Qing, when can we go back? I want to go back to Tsongyu mainland. I miss Gui. I miss Dyer and old Master Nalan. I also miss Uncle Nalan a little, although Uncle Nalan was stingy and fierce. He still treated her well in the Nalan family. Foam Ruching lowered her eyes, and after half a second, she looked up at the girl in front of her smilingly. Trust me, we will leave here soon. All right, Tang Yin smiled, revealing her 2 canine teeth. That smile was bright and lovely, but there were still tears in her eyes that had not been wiped. The spiritual qi here is denser than Tsongyu mainland, but I still liked Tsongyu mainland more. I don't want to stay in this place. I always feel that there are too many bad people here. Moreover, this place was not her hometown. She turned around and looked at the door of the room not far away, and her eyes once again dimmed for a moment. When will Mother wake up me for extra chapters? Outside of Wushang City, an eagle flew high in the sky, holding onto Nalan Dyer tightly. A group of people was still chasing after them. Therefore, the flying eagle did not dare to stop and continued flying faster. Nalan Dyer cried to the point where she almost fainted. Her reddened eyes were so heartbreaking to see. Put me down. I want to find my brother. They will not kill my brother if I stay with him. That man will not let him go. I want to go find him. Nalan Dyer knew Zhang Tianlei well. His stupid son wanted to marry her, and Zhang Tianlei loved his only son. He would fulfill all his son's wishes, and he would not kill them for his stupid son. However, things might be different if she escaped from them. Zhang Tianlei would really kill her brother. Let go of me. Nalan Dyer struggled desperately, trying to break free from the flying eagle's claws so that she could go to Nalan Jing. He was her brother. She wanted to stay with him and face all the hardship together. The eagle cawed lowly. Perhaps it had not yet recovered from its past injuries and was struggling to fly high. However, it saw the people who were chasing after him almost catching up. It gritted its teeth and flapped its wings hard, trying to throw off the people behind it. The little girl kept struggling, making the eagle exhausted. It started to lose its balance and gradually fell to the ground. Deep in the forest, Tianya held a pot of wine in his hand, raised his head, and emptied it. He then wiped his mouth with his sleeve smilingly. My granddaughter's wine is so good. No wonder the old master of the Hellion family also misses it. If I didn't come here, I am afraid that he would keep bugging me, begging me for this wine, good wine, delicious wine. Just when Tianya was raising his head again to drink, a little girl fell from the sky, with an eagle, and landed before him. Tianya froze. He looked down at the little girl in front of him, and then raised his head to look at the sky, confused. How can a child fall from the sky? This little girl is only about 10 years old. What has happened to her? Why does she look so messy? Tianya pondered for a short while and decided to take this girl back to be friends with Xia Xia. But he did not know where this girl came from. Was it all right if he simply took her away? Just when Tianya was hesitating, countless figures descended from the sky and landed in front of Tianya. These people's aura was overwhelming, like sharp swords, and they instantly rushed toward the unconscious little girl. Tianya's face darkened. How dared this group of people to bully a child in front of him? Just when the group was about to reach the little girl, Tianya moved, and in the blink of an eye, he was already standing in front of the group. His face was stern and cold, his red robes fluttering with the wind. Get lost. 2 words, but they contained a powerful force, causing everyone's chest to tighten. They suddenly vomited blood, flying a few meters back. Their eyes were filled with cautiousness as they steadied themselves and stared at Tianya. She is the Zhang family's young master's future wife. She ran away with someone, so we have the right to bring her back. Please do not interfere in this matter. Perhaps it was because of Tianya's powerful aura that made these people fearful and was quite polite to him, not daring to have any conflict. Future wife. Tianya smiled coldly as he looked down at the little girl lying on the ground. Do you mean this girl, or that eagle? The group was speechless. Me for extra chapters. They gritted their teeth and said, "It's that little girl." Oh, but this little girl looks young, so young to be a wife. You said she ran with someone. It wouldn't be with this eagle, right? Tianya asked and looked at the group of people in front of him fiercely. He did not know where these people came from, but did they think he was a fool? Brother, a soft murmur came from the little girl's mouth. Tianya stopped, frowned, and stared at the little girl on the ground. The little girl was still unconscious. Her small face was pale, and she seemed to be in pain. Don't kill my brother. Her voice carried panic, helplessness, and grief. Tianya turned to look at these people. It seems that you not only chased this little girl, but also killed her brother. What I hate most in this life is bullying. Now, this little girl is still unconscious. I will let you go first. I want one of you to go back and tell your master that Tianya will visit him soon.
Tianya.
This name, like a thunderbolt, made this group of people all dumbfounded. Everyone in Land of No Return knew Tianya, not only because of his strength and achievements, but also, he loved to meddle with others' business. The group stared at Tianya, with eyes filled with fear. They panic, subconsciously retreating backward. Tianya did not give them any more chances. He moved as fast as the wind, and in a flash, he was already in front of them. He waved his wand, and bright rays of light shone from his palm. Suddenly, those people all fell to the ground in front of him, leaving only one person standing frozen and unblinking. Get lost. Tianya snapped expressionlessly. After a few days, I will go to you. I can't believe that such a thing is still happening in Tianling Kingdom. The man came back to his senses and looked at his companions who had fallen in a pool of blood. He left swiftly without looking back, afraid that if he stayed for a moment longer, he would lose his life here. Tianya turned back. His eyes fell upon the little girl lying on the ground. He frowned. He picked her up and sighed as he turned to look at the eagle. This eagle is quite big and heavy. Fortunately, the eagle did not stay unconscious for long and woke up soon. After it saw Nalan Dyer being carried on Tianya's shoulders, it panicked and cawed anxiously. Tianya glanced at the eagle. Don't worry. I won't hurt her. This little girl is seriously injured, so I'll take her back. If you're worried, then you can follow me back. The eagle cawed lowly, but it did not stop Tianya from leaving as it did not have the strength to stop him. It then followed Tianya silently while its eyes were still fixed upon Nalan Dyer inside general manner. Feng Ruching discussed something with someone, and suddenly, an old voice came from outside the door. Qing'er, I picked up a little girl for you. She can stay here and become Xia Xia's friend. Feng Ruching raised her eyebrows. She stood up from her chair and walked toward Tianya. Immediately, she saw the little girl being carried on Tianya's shoulders. This little girl's head was down, so Feng Ruching did not see her face clearly. Me for extra chapters. However, when Tianya put the little girl down, Feng Ruching's face changed dramatically. Endless anger surged from her heart like a fierce storm. Tianya froze and looked at Feng Ruching confused. Qing'er? Feng Ruching ignored Tianya. She raised her hand and pulled the little girl on the ground into her arms. More than 2 years. The little girl had become more beautiful, but her features were still the same. Feng Ruching's heart suddenly ached. Where did you find her? The White Phoenix only said Nalan Jing was here, but did not tell her that Nalan Dyer had also come with him. She clenched her fists tightly, looking at the little girl's unconscious appearance. The anger in her heart almost burned her. Oh, I found her in the forest. Someone was chasing after this little girl. I heard that that group of people killed her brother. Those people wanted to force her to marry their young master. I pitied this little girl, so I brought her back. Tang Yin ran out of the room after hearing Tianya's words. She looked down, staring at the familiar little girl. Brother Nalan is dead? Foam Ruching held Nalan Dyer tightly as she pursed her lips and walked toward the backyard without saying a word. There seemed to be a terrifying storm brewing in her eyes. Tianya turned to look at Tang Yin, somewhat puzzled. What's wrong with Qing'er? Tang Yin lowered her eyes. Her heart was cold, with endless grief and anger. Does Grandfather Tianya know who that little girl is? Who is she? Tianya became even more confused. Is she Qing'er's friend? Tang Yin closed her eyes, and when she opened them again, her eyes were full of despair. She's Nalan Dyer. Nalan Dyer. Tianya suddenly stiffened and asked in disbelief. Who did you say this little girl is? Nalan Dyer. Her brother is Nalan Jing. Brother Nalan is dead. He's dead. Brother Nalan would always bring delicious food to her and offend his father to protect her. He was dead now. He would always tolerate her and indulge her no matter what mistakes she made. Tang Yin's heart ached. She had never been this sad before. Tianya froze. Qing'er had told him about Nalan Dyer before, and they were searching for Nalan Jing, but now one was unconscious and one was dead. Anger burned within him and seemed to seep into the surroundings, filling up the entire courtyard. Everyone could feel the murderous aura in Tianya's heart. No one dared to say a word. Xia stood confused, biting her fingers. She did not know what was happening here. However, she could feel the sadness in her mother and Aunt Tang and sense the anger in Grandfather Tianya. General. Just then, a figure hurriedly ran over and said, Someone outside has come to meet you, saying they're from the Zhang family. The Zhang family? Which Zhang family? Me for extra chapters. The Zhang family of Tianfeng City. The Zhang family of Tianfeng City. Tianya smirked. Let him in. Yes, General. Tang Yin raised her face, tears pouring down her delicate face as she said, Grandfather Tianya, is the Zhang family of Tianfeng City related to the death of Brother Nalan? Yes. Tianya did not know which Zhang family those people in the forest were talking about. However, he had nothing to do with the people of Tianfeng City, and now that they had suddenly come to his door, he could not help but think of the Zhang family that was responsible for this tragedy. Tang Yin clenched her fists tightly. She turned and saw the guards walking over with a middle-aged man. The middle-aged man was cold and looked somewhat arrogant, but he smiled brightly when he saw Tianya. He looked humble now because he knew Tianya well, and he did not want to make any mistakes in front of Tianya. However, he did not know that he had already committed an unforgivable fault from the moment he abducted Nalan Jing and Nalan Dyer. General Tianya, Zhang Tianlei stepped forward with a smile. I saw the wanted notice put up by your people. I just happened to meet the person you are looking for, and I've brought him to Wushang City. Tianya clenched his fists tightly, but before seeing Nalan Jing, he must hold his anger back. Where is that man? Zhang Tianli's heart thumped harder as he looked at Tianya's cold expression. Could it be that Tianya was not happy because he did not bring that guy to General Manor today?
He's still in the inn.
General Tianya, I'll ask someone to bring him here. Zhang Tianlei hurriedly winked at the man beside him and ordered him to bring Nalan Jing. The man saw Zhang Tianli's wink and hurriedly retreated. The breeze was somewhat warm today, but when it brushed against Tang Yin, she felt cold. Her small fist clenched tighter and tighter, looking at Zhang Tianlei with hatred. Zhang Tianlei was somewhat puzzled. Have I offended this little girl before? Why does she stare at me as if I've killed her whole family, General Tianya? I don't understand. When did I offend this little girl? He frowned. Tianya was still expressionless, with an endless storm hidden behind his eyes. When will that man arrive? It's not far. It should be soon. Tianya did not answer him, and he did not dare to continue asking questions for fear that he might offend this old guy. As time passed by, Zhang Tianlei was somewhat awkward and uncomfortable. Fortunately, his men soon dragged the half-dead Nalan Jing over. He quietly sighed in relief. He thought that with Nalan Jing here, Tianya should no longer treat him coldly. Suddenly, a gust of wind passed by, and Tianya's figure instantly landed next to Nalan Jing, snatched him from Zhang Tianli's arms, and threw him to Tang Yin. Me for extra chapters. Take a look. Is it him? Tang Yin's eyes fell upon the man's handsome face. He was still the same as 2 years ago. He would always smile at her brightly. However, now, he could not smile anymore. Tang Yin brushed the man's face with her fingers as tears flowed, instantly soaking her face. Zhang Tianlei only paid attention to Tianya. Moreover, the hatred in Tang Yin's eyes just now made him a little creeped out, so he never looked at her again. He did not notice the grief in her eyes the moment she saw Nailan Jing. Tianya turned to Tang Yin and said coldly, "Qing'er is in the room. You send him to Qing'er and both of you stay in there. I will take care of it." Tang Yin naturally understood that saving Nailan Jing and Dyer was the most important thing now. She did not argue much with Tianya and simply nodded as she looked at Zhang Tianlei with eyes filled with murderous intent before leaving. Zhang Tianlei could feel the murderous aura even without looking at Tang Yin. He trembled a little and smiled awkwardly. "General Tianya, I've already sent the man, and about the reward you've promised. Of course, I will give it to you." Tianya sneered as he walked toward Zhang Tianlei. Zhang Tianlei smiled.
Great.
General Tianya is known for keeping his words and, before Zhang Tianlei could finish his words, Tianya's red robes flapped, and in an instant, his foot had landed on Zhang Tianlei's head. Tianya kicked him hard, sending his body crashing into the wall. Zhang Tianlei was dumbfounded. He looked at Tianya blankly, and his eyes were full of doubts. "General Tianya, Tianya slammed his fist down hard, smashing Zhang Tianlei's face hard, and he almost passed out from the dizziness. Zhang Tianlei spurted a mouthful of blood and fell to the ground helplessly. Then, an old voice spoke from above his head, carrying a wave of unconcealable anger. "Is there a little girl who has already run away?" Zhang Tianlei raised his head in surprise. Could Tianya be angry and hitting him because he also wanted Nailan Dyer, and he had only brought back one? "General Tianya, that little girl has run away. Then, do you know where she is now?" Tianya asked coldly. Zhang Tianlei's face was pale, and his body was a little cold. "I don't know." Bang. Tianya stomped his foot on Zhang Tianlei's chest. "She is in my manor." This sentence made Zhang Tianlei even more confused, as if he did not know what Tianya meant now. "Nailan Dyer is here?"
Why?
Tianya put his foot back and asked expressionlessly. Then, "Do you know why I sent someone to draw a portrait to find Nailan Jing?" Zhang Tianlei gritted his teeth. "I don't know, because Nailan Jing's grandfather is my in-law." "Nailan Jing's grandfather is my in-law." This voice filled Zhang Tianlei's mind, and he was a bit confused. Nailan Jing's grandfather is Tianya's in-law. It means that Nailan Jing is his granddaughter's cousin? His mind instantly went blank. Me for extra chapters. He. At this moment, panic had begun to invade his heart, causing his face to turn paler. How did it turn out like this? He had rushed over to flatter Tianya, but who knew that Nailan Jing turned out to be the cousin of General Manor's young lady? Guess one last time, what will be your downfall for treating the Nailan siblings like this? Tianya's face was gloomy, filled with murderous intent, and Zhang Tianlei's red robes looked like they were dyed red with blood. Thoroughly panicked, he rose from the ground and kowtowed to Tianya. "General Tianya, spare my life. Nailan Jing is not dead. He is still alive. I didn't kill him. If he had not seen the notice, perhaps Nailan Jing would have been dead. Fortunately, he did not kill Nailan Jing. Otherwise, no matter how hard he pleaded for mercy, Tianya would never let him go." "You mean Nailan Jing was only injured?" Tianya smiled coldly. Zhang Tianlei coughed up blood. "General, you can beat me, but please, I don't want to die. Please spare my life." Tianya sneered. "Do you know the price of hurting him?" Hearing these words, Zhang Tianlei understood that Tianya was not going to let him off lightly. He raised his head stiffly, swallowed hard, and his voice trembled as he spoke. "You hurt him, and you will die. Even if he did not do it, his precious granddaughter would do it. Therefore, He would punish Zhang Tianlei for his precious granddaughter, as he did not want to get her hands dirty. A burst of coldness filled Zhang Tianlei's heart, and he was stunned. People said that General Tianya is an upright man. I admit that I've hurt Nailan Jing, and am willing to accept the same punishment, but I didn't kill him. Why would you treat me so cruelly? Tianya wanted to kill him. Was this price a little too high? You hurt Nailan Jing first beforehand. Is it wrong if I punish you for that? Secondly, if you have not seen the wanted notice, I'm afraid that Nailan Jing would have already lost his life. And 2 years ago, General Tianya, had no one to protect. 2 years ago, he was alone and had no relatives. He was strict to Feng Lianqing and others, with no mercy. However, after Qing'er came, he had a reason to be unreasonable. He would protect her no matter what kind of situation. Nailan Jing was not only a member of the Nailan family, but also someone who Qing'er cared a lot about. Tianya raised his long sword and walked toward Zhang Tianlei. He then swung his sword and cut Zhang Tianlei's finger. The pain made him cry out in agony. This was the equivalent of giving him 1,000 cuts. This kind of pain was not something that ordinary people could endure. Grandfather Tianya, a voice came from behind him. Tianya turned his head around and saw Tang Yin walking over, holding a little girl's hand. This little girl's face was a bit pale, and her big eyes seemed angry as she looked at Zhang Tianlei. Me for extra chapters. As for Tang Yin, she was still teary, and her eyes were filled with hatred. Xiao Qing is saving Brother Nailan. She can't come out now. Dyer has woken up, so I brought her here. I wanted to watch him die. Tianya's gaze fell upon Dyer. The first time he saw this little girl, he felt some fondness for her, not expecting that she was the Nailan family member. How heartbroken the Nailan family would be if they saw Dyer and Nailan Jing wounded to such an extent. Nailan Dyer raised her stubborn face as she turned to Zhang Tianlei. I secretly followed my brother and came to land of no return, but not long after I arrived, I met Zhang Tianlei's son. His son saw me and thought I was cute, so he wanted to take me away. Later, the Zhang family's people abducted my brother and I, and forbade us to go out, but I could still walk freely in Zhang Manor, so I went to the backyard and saw an eagle fell. It said it was hiding from the Nan family and was injured. I picked it up and fed it the spirit herb given to me by my cousin before to save it. Zhang Tianlei said I stole his spirit herbs. He locked me up and forced my brother to give him all the spirit herbs. My brother risked his life to save me. It was all my fault. If she had known, there would be today. She would never remove the scars on her face in this way. She would not have attracted the villains and suffered serious injuries. Tianya's heart ached. Xiao Dyer, Nailan Jing will be fine. Being beautiful is not a sin. Those who see beautiful girls and use all means to get the girls they like are the ones that should be blamed. Nailan Dyer looked up and stared hard at Zhang Tianlei. Yes, it's not my fault. It's these people who are at fault. Housekeeper, Tianya's face was cold. Torture him to death and inform me when he dies. I will take Dyer to Tianfeng City, and those who have hurt her in the Zhang family will pay the same price as him. Yes, General, the housekeeper replied respectfully. Zhang Tianlei's gaze was filled with despair. His heart was so oppressed that he could not utter another word. Nailan Jing felt like he had a long dream. In this dream, he saw a young girl smile at him. It then became a memory that he could never erase. Perhaps he and she had a connection that could never be severed. She was also the person he could never let go of in this world. Brother Nailan, a clear voice called out to him that sounded close to his ears. Xiao Qing, why hasn't Brother Nailan woken up yet? He could hear her sobbing quietly, and his heart ached for her. Cold tears fell upon his hands and seemingly into his heart. He wanted to open his eyes and raise his hand to wipe away her tears, but he had no strength to do so. Then came another familiar voice. He will wake up soon. Xiao Yin, you stay here with him. I'll come back later. After saying these words, the voice traveled further away and gradually disappeared. Nailan Jing felt that only the young girl was left alone in the room. Me for extra chapters. The young girl's hand was warm, holding his big hand. Mother was injured to save me. She has not woken up until now. Brother Naylan, you once said that you wanted to protect me. There are so many evil people in Land of No Return. They want to kill me. Oh, they also said they want to catch me to turn me into their slave. I don't know what they will do to me, but it sounds a little scary. Brother Naylan, those bad people will take me away if you don't wake up and protect me. His breath grew heavier. The young girl's words were like a hand, fiercely pinching his heart. Perhaps it was the anxiety and anger in his heart that made him suddenly open his eyes. His voice was dry and hoarse, but filled with determination. I won't let you go. A small face with a bright smile reflected before his eyes. Tang Yin jumped into Naylan Jing's arms, holding him so hard that he almost spurted blood. Tang Yin did not notice that she had caused secondary injury to Naylan Jing. She stared at him unblinking. Brother Naylan, how are you doing? Does your body still hurt? Naylan Jing was a little breathless. However, looking at the young girl's smile, he could not say that and smiled back at her after all. I'm fine. The man raised his hand and brushed away the tears at the corner of her eyes with his fingers. Don't cry. Tang Yin nodded obediently. Brother Naylan am strong now. Not as strong as Xiao Qing and that vixen, but I'm already stronger than you. I'm not the little girl that you had to protect back then. Naylan Jing was speechless. Her words had left him with mixed emotions. So, Tang Yin smiled, revealing her cute tiger teeth. In the future, you will follow me, and I will protect you. Naylan Jing was slightly stunned. He looked at the little girl's smug face and smiled gently. All right, bang. The door of the room was pushed open. Naylan Dyer just walked in through the door, and what she saw at a glance was Tang Yin, who was pressing against Naylan Jing's chest. Her eyes widened abruptly, and she was shocked. Dyer. Tang Yin cocked her head and looked at Naylan Dyer, confused. Your brother is awake, but why do you look unhappy? Only then did Naylan Dyer slowly come back to her senses. Oh, with the help of our cousin sister, my brother can't die.
So I'm not too surprised.
Naylan Jing grabbed his chest. He felt a little pain in his heart. After saying that, Naylan Dyer turned around and left, and thoughtfully closed the door for them. The moment she stepped out of the room, she ran excitedly to the front yard. A big smile filled her small face. Cousin sister.
Cousin sister.
The front yard. Feng Ruching was sitting on a chair with two leopards peeling the grapes for her. She leaned against the man in a white robe and smiled coldly as she looked at the miserable Zhang Tianlei in the courtyard. Suddenly, a cheerful voice spoke. Feng Ruching turned and saw Xiao Dyer pouncing overexcitedly. However, before she could jump into Feng Ruching's arms, she was stopped by a hand and was thrown aside. Nan Xian glanced coldly, frightening Xiao Dyer. Me for extra chapters. For some reason, she had always felt that her cousin sister's husband was a bit scary, and he seemed to dislike any girl who was around her cousin. Cousin sister, I'm here to tell you good news. She smiled brightly with her eyes narrowed into crescent moons. Good news? Feng Ruching paused. Cousin Naylan. He's awake? Not only that, but I also saw Sister Xiao Yin and my brother kissing and hugging in bed. Kissing and hugging. In bed? Feng Ruching's face stiffened. She hesitated for a moment. His body has not yet recovered. For now, it's better if he controls himself. But they have been separated for so many years, so it's normal to have that feeling. I'll prepare some tonic medicine for him. You send it to him later. All right, Dyer smiled. If Mother knew this news, she would jump happily, and Father, he would cry non-stop. After all, Father has always thought that Sister Xiao Yin was too naughty. But Sister Xiao Yin is also our family. Soon, she will become Father's daughter-in-law. Oh, one more thing. Feng Ruching frowned. State Preceptor, we have to prepare a wedding for them. I can't let this matter ruin Tang Yin's reputation. Nan Xian looked at Naylan Dyer and turned to the woman next to him. All right, but Tang Yin will be shy and may not agree with this wedding. What should we do? We prepare everything first, then force her to marry him. Nayland Dyer was dumbfounded and looked at Nan Xian doubtfully. She had always felt that her brother-in-law seemed to want Sister Xiaoyin to hurry up and get married. Feng Ruqing fell silent. Indeed, Xiaoyin has always denied her relationship with cousin Nayland. Even Dyer has found out how intimate they are. So, I'll ask grandfather to prepare for it. We will hold the wedding in Land of No Return and then have another one back in Songyu mainland. No one knew when they could return to Songyu mainland. Tang Yin and Nayland Jing's marriage could not be delayed. Otherwise, there would be another child in General Manor. She did not want anyone to talk bad about Tang Yin. Nayland Jing must be responsible for what he had done. Hide it from Tang Yin for the time being. We will tell her when the time comes. But Nayland Dyer was a bit torn. Sister Xiaoyin will know about it. Don't worry. She's silly. Tang Yin's intelligence was traded for her beauty. Therefore, she was not worried that Tang Yin would know. Then I want to participate too. I want to help my brother get a wife. After all, father and mother are not here. I am the daughter of the Nayland family, so I have to help. Nayland Dyer smiled sweetly. Her eyes were as bright as stars. Feng Ruqing's heart softened as she looked at well-behaved Xiao Dyer. She raised her hand and touched Xiao Dyer's head. Good girl. Xia stood aside. She looked at Xiao Dyer and then looked at Feng Ruqing before jumping into her arms. Mother, I am also a good girl. Well, Feng Ruqing bent down and picked up Xia. Both of you are good girls. Xia smiled and put her small head on Feng Ruqing's chest happily. Nan Xian smiled coldly. Me for extra chapters. One love rival will get married. The next one will be that woman from the Hellion family. What's her name? Oh, it's Hellion Yu. She will also get married soon. Inside the room, Tang Yin stared at the door that was closed by Nayland Dyer blankly. She turned sideways and looked at Nayland Jing. Brother Nayland, what's wrong with Dyer? She's fine. Nayland Jing quietly sighed in relief. It seemed that Dyer found Qing'er first, and Qing'er had saved him from the Zhang family. Seeing that Dyer was unharmed, he was also relieved. But, Xiaoyin, my cousin is already married. Nayland Jing's tone was solemn. Tang Yin pouted. I know, and you should know that I'm not your cousin. Only Qing'er and Nan Xian can call me cousin. Nan Xian is her husband. They have been married, so you have no way to be with Qing'er. Tang Yin froze, looking at Nayland Jing angrily. She then slapped his face and pushed him down. You deliberately humiliated me. He deliberately stabbed her with this fact. Tang Yin's eyes were red, and tears almost fell as she glared at Nayland Jing fiercely. Nayland Jing remained calm. He held Tang Yin's hand and looked at her gently. I just do not want you to call me cousin. You look down on me. Tang Yin huffed and puffed.
No.
You can call me by my name or Brother Nayland as you always did, but don't take me as your cousin. Why? Tang Yin froze and looked at Nayland Jing with doubt. Nayland Jing paused, finding it somewhat hard to explain. Fine. If you don't want me to take you as my cousin, then I won't. But you will always be my brother Nayland. Tang Yin raised her gaze and smiled brightly. In that instant, Nayland Jing's heart was warmed, and he could not help but smile back at her. Good. Tang Yin was always in Nayland Jing's room in these few days, accompanying him, never stepping out. Even the meals were specially brought to the room. The moment she left the room, she saw the red lanterns hanging high everywhere. The housekeeper was directing the servants to decorate the entire general manor with red, making her wonder what was going on. Is someone getting married? Tang Yin asked in confusion. Feng Lianqing? The only marriageable person in General Manor is Feng Lianqing. It can't be Xia and Xiao Dyer, right? When Tang Yin was looking around, she happened to see Hellion Yu running from the front. When they first met, Tang Yin and Hellion Yu were still enemies. But as time passed, perhaps with the common love rival, Nan Xian, their relationship became closer. Me for extra chapters. Hellion Yu rushed toward Tang Yin in panic. Tang Yin, I heard you. Well. Before Hellion Yu's words fell, a hand reached out from the side and tightly covered her mouth. Her face turned cold when she turned and saw the man who had covered her mouth. Tang Yin was dumbfounded, looking at the man who had pulled Helian Yu to his side. Helian Yu, you don't need to explain. I understand now. Helian Yu's eyes widened. Tang Yin is getting married? What about me? I'm alone now, and want it be harder to get close to Fengruching? Helian Yu, I wish you happiness. Tang Yin sighed and walked away, never giving Helian Yu another chance to speak. Even if she was selfish, she could not hinder Helian Yu from marrying someone, even though Feng Lianqing was not a good man. But if this was Helian Yu's choice, then she could only wish them happiness. After seeing that Tang Yin had left, Feng Lianqing breathed a sigh of relief and turned to Helian Yu. Maiden Helian, we have known each other since childhood. Do you really want to ignore me for the rest of your life? Helian Yu turned her back on Feng Lianqing and sneered. When you choose to trust Feng Lianyi back then, why did you not think that we had known each other since childhood? Brother Lianqing, you were once my happiness, my everything. I gave all my heart to you. I wanted to stay by your side, and I was willing to risk my life for you. But later I realized that you are not everything to me. In the future, if you meet a woman who likes you as much as I once did, please don't do anything that will hurt her again. Helian Yu closed her eyes. More than 2 years had passed, but she still felt hurt whenever she thought of things that happened that year. After all, she had to move on with her life. See you next time. The young girl turned around and walked away, slowly disappearing from his sight. His heart ached. Feng Lianqing stood there, dumbfounded and lost in thought. Suddenly, an old voice spoke behind him. I've said back then that Helian Yu is a good girl, but you said you wanted to focus on your cultivation. You did not want to talk about love, and was deliberately cold to her. Look at what's happening now. Do you regret it? Feng Lianqing turned and looked at Tianya. Master, I don't have a foolish disciple like you. Tianya laughed sarcastically. Back then, you would rather believe in Feng Lianyi than Yuer's word, which has hurt her to the core. Feng Lianqing paused, his face filled with regret. I didn't know that Feng Lianyi would. Lianqing, the smile on Tianya's face gradually disappeared. You have known Helian Yu for so long. Have you ever seen her tell a lie? This girl is a bit overbearing. She may be quite arrogant, but she never tells lies. Feng Lianqing lowered his head. Indeed. Why didn't I trust her in the first place? Look, Tianya pointed to Xia, sitting by the pond playing in the water in front of him. That's my great-granddaughter. Feng Lianqing looked at Tianya, somewhat puzzled. Me for extra chapters. Tianya smiled brightly as he looked at Xia's beautiful and childish face. My great-granddaughter is 2 years old, so where is your future child? Do you want to stay single forever? Feng Lianqing was speechless. He felt an invisible sword penetrate his heart, causing him to cover his chest hastily. Master is doing it on purpose. Master, I do not have single disciples. Go away, as far as possible. Tianya grunted coldly. He turned and walked away, never looked at Feng Lianqing again. Feng Lianqing lowered his eyes. It seems that it is time for me to find a wife. Looking at Qing'er's happy family, he suddenly felt that he could not only focus on cultivation. As he thought about this, his mind was filled with Helian Yu's lovely face, and he could not help but smile bitterly. Looks like this girl doesn't want to care about me anymore. At the pond side, Xia put her small feet into the cold water and held her cheeks with her hands smilingly. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.